Hey, Bob here. Welcome back to the show, episode 377. Today, we're going to teach you how to become a better coach. And I'm going to make an argument that this is one of the blind spots, one of the things that's holding many of you back in your business. We're going to be discussing the difference between training and coaching. So these are two terms that oftentimes are used interchangeably in business. But the reality is these two things couldn't be any more different. And in building a business, you, from a leadership perspective, you must make sure that both of these are present. If they're not, you are always going to limit your business growth. And in my experience, here's what I've found. Most leaders are okay in the area of training and teaching their team things. As a matter of fact, they actually do way too much in the way of training, and it actually kind of works against them. I'll explain that to you here shortly. But they do very little in the way of actual coaching for the people that are on their team. And part of it is because they don't have the skill of coaching. And coaching is actually what is necessary to help people master new skills and to facilitate transformation and growth. And so today in this episode, what I'm going to do is we're going to talk about the difference between training and coaching. I'm going to share some simple steps of how you can start to apply this to your business. And we're going to teach you how to be a better coach. So I want to start off by sharing a story with you. And I think this is a perfect example of the importance of understanding the difference between training and coaching. So we, in our Love, Serve, Grow program, one of the things that makes it different is I really consider it to be a coaching program. So if you're in that program, you have an opportunity to work one-on-one with a trained coach of ours. And in that program, we really focus on two core skills. And in the episode today, I'm gonna make an argument that these are the two things you need to be coaching your team on every single week: content and conversations. And so we spend a lot of time working one-on-one with people in these two areas. And so I had a client of mine in my own personal coaching that I was teaching how to have transformational conversations, right? And so this is a topic we discussed a lot on the podcast, but we got on a coaching call, and the first thing she said to me is she said, "Okay, so I did what you said." She was just learning this. She said, "I did what you said and it didn't work." And she goes, "Well, I reached out to 3 people this week. I did exactly what you told me to do, and it didn't work." And so I immediately, to me, a red flag goes up, because I know that if you do it exactly the way that we teach it, and you do it more than just a handful of times, you're going to see some sort of progress. And so my first question to her was this, and this is my first lesson to you. The next time somebody comes to you and says, "I'm struggling," or "something I'm doing isn't working," before you even spend an ounce of your breath trying to give them advice or to motivate or encourage them, here's what you ask them to do. Send me screenshots of your conversations. That's it. Send me screenshots of your conversations. Because until I see what you're doing, I actually can't help you. See, this is coaching. And so what I said to her, I said, "Okay, well, let's choose a specific example and send me screenshots of the conversation." And she did. And we pulled them up right there on the screen. And I said, "Okay, tell me about this one." And so here was the context. This is what happened. She had a customer of hers that actually reached out to her asking her about her business, which was a great thing. And so as I'm looking at the message, the conversation, I see the message from her client, and then I see the response from my client back to her. Now, I don't know if we've all gotten these messages. We've sent them, unfortunately. You know how in order to be able to see the whole message, you have to kind of scroll, right? This was one of those messages. It didn't even show up on the screen. She had to scroll. It was just this big blue bubble with all this writing in it. And so I immediately, right away, I'm like, okay, there's the problem. But I'm like, let me see what she's saying. And so basically in this message, this is what she said. She was like, "I'm so excited to hear that you're interested. I would love to share with you some information." And then she started talking about her story. the business has changed my life. Here's what it's done for our family. Here's what we're able to do. And then she started going into some of the details. And it was just this long message, right? And I was like, go to the bottom. And I was like, what happened? She goes, well, she never responded back. And so my response was, yeah, I'm not surprised. She goes, what do you mean? I go, well, first off, I said, do you see that? I said to her jokingly, because we have a good relationship, I go, in what universe do you think that is what I taught you to do? First of all. And we kind of laughed about it. I'm like, what did you do here? I said, you led with product information. You didn't do what I taught, right? The first thing we teach with transformational selling and transformational conversations, lead with problem solving. Before you share the details of your offer and you pitch people on what you're doing and you tell them what you do, you got to find out why they're there in the first place. What's their problem? Because the problem is the need. And until we identify the need, sharing the solution is going to be ineffective. And so I said, you didn't do it. And so this is your first lesson around the importance of coaching. So training, let's just talk about the distinction between the two. Training is think of it as a transfer of knowledge. It's you teaching, it's learning. It's typically done in group settings. You do a training call. Maybe there's a Zoom where once a week you're teaching and you're training your team. It's you and 30, 40, 50, 100 other people. And it's usually a one-time thing. We teach or we train a new topic. They learn it. That's just the starting point. See, what people really need for skill development and for real transformation and for growth, they need coaching. Now, coaching is the next step. Coaching is not knowledge transfer or teaching a new skill. It's the development of the skill. And here's how you coach people on their actions. So in order to coach, they have to actually do something with what you teach. And so coaching is, let's look at what you did. Let's compare what you did to the source of the information. And let's see if you're actually doing what we taught. And what you're going to find is, 99 out of 100 times, the problem is this. It's the application of the knowledge. It gets lost in translation. So many times clients of ours say, yeah, I'm doing what I'm doing what I learned in Love, Serve, Grow, and it's not working. I have never had a client tell me that. And I look at what they're doing and immediately within seconds see why they're struggling. Because you're not actually doing it. You think you're doing it, but we all have blind spots, right? We have these habits of doing it a certain way. And most of you have been having transactional conversations and creating transactional content for your entire business career. And so to expect that you're going to attend a workshop or one seminar and learn about transformational content and learn about transformational conversations, and then all of a sudden you got it and you go do it, it's not realistic. You can't actually do it without the coaching piece. You need someone who is an expert on the subject matter that you learned that can give you feedback on what you're doing. And that's coaching. Coaching is based off of your actions. It's one-to-one. It is personalized, and it is most of the time, it's just feedback on what you're doing. It's the application of the knowledge. And so there I was. I'm in this conversation with my client Shannon, and I'm like, "Look, can you clearly see?" And she goes, "Yeah, I get it now." And so what needs to happen is this: the light bulb moments happen in coaching conversations. In actually being able to look at what you did and then going back to the skill and to the knowledge that you were taught and saying, you see this, here's where you could have done this different. And, we talk about that learning is repetition. The only way you're going to master a new skill is you have to hear it and see it over and over and over again. And so coaching conversations, basically what you're doing is you're just keeping the focus on the one skill, and it's being repeated over and over and over and over again. And herein lies the problem that most of you have. You're teaching and training your team too much. I made this mistake for a very long time. I would read a book or I would listen to a podcast and I'd be like, oh my God, that's so good. I'm going to go teach that to my team. And I would put together a PowerPoint, and then on the weekly training, I would teach them this thing, and all of the information was great. And all of it was valuable. But what I didn't realize that I was doing is I was harming them more than I was helping them. Because the more I taught them, the more overwhelmed they became, the less they did. But then what I was also doing was I was diluting their focus. They weren't focused on just the core things. Like I'm telling you, if all you did in your entire business, if all you did every single week was just coach people on content and conversations, how to be better with creating content and how to have better conversations. If that was all you ever did as a leader, now most of you won't do that because it's boring, right? Because, as a leader, like as an entrepreneur, we like talking about doing new things. We get bored with the mundane, right? Mastering the mundane is how you achieve the greatest level of success. Success is boring. That's what most people don't realize. Success is so boring. Like achieving the highest level of success, it's just doing and saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. That's what leadership is. It's repetition. And so like if all you did was just coach content and conversations every week with everybody you work with, your business would be so much better off than it is today. Now, we have to find the balance, right? There's a place for both. You need training, you need coaching. I'll give you some advice on how we leverage both of these things. But coming back to this conversation, when you think about coaching, every time you take an action, it's an opportunity for you to learn and grow. But you're not just taking the action isn't necessarily going to help you become better, because most people, just like my client Shannon, thank God she only talked to 3 people and then we got on a coaching call. Because what most people will do is they will talk to 30 people doing it wrong, thinking they're doing it right, and then just get frustrated and give up thinking, oh, that doesn't work. You never actually did it. So here we are. And she has this light bulb moment. She goes, oh, I see it. And I said, Shannon, well, here's my question to you. This is also, so when we talk about the skill of becoming a better coach, here's one of the skills of coaching. Don't just give them the answer. Help them find it themselves. And so what I did was I provided the context. I said, so Shannon, the number one thing that we learned is we have to lead with problem solving, which means that before we share all the details, we need to find the problem. Now, you led with product information. So I said, coach yourself. That's a good thing. Coach yourself. What could you have done different? And then I just put it on her. And what was funny was I could see her, like laboring, like struggling with finding the answer. Because she couldn't even see the other way of doing it because she's just done it a certain way so long. And finally, I saw she got it. It was like I could see the light bulb go off. And she said to me, she was, why? I mean, I guess I could have asked her why. And I said, exactly. Right? Like, that's it. Like a client of yours, she's been a client for years. She randomly messages you about the business. Wouldn't you want to be curious? Like, what caused you to do that all of a sudden? I said, that's what leading with problem solving is just why. Why are you interested? And so I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go back to her and I want you to do it that way. She said, okay, I'll go do that. And so that was her assignment. That's another lesson in coaching. You never leave a coaching call without giving them a specific assignment to do. Less is more. The specificity is where it's at. Talk to one person and then let's connect again. I made this mistake for a long time. I would provide coaching and then I would just send them on their way to just go do what they were going to do with no structure in place in terms of follow-up and support. So what I said to her, I want you to do it the right way. And I want you to message me as soon as you're done and let's talk about what happened. See, when you're coaching someone on a new skill, it's really important that you provide these little kind of small little steps for them to take so that we can help create that momentum. Because I don't want her going too long making the mistake without me giving the feedback. And so she went and she did it. She came back to me all excited. She goes, "You're not going to believe it." I go, "What?" She said, "It worked." I said, "What do you mean it worked?" She goes, "Well, I did what you said. I just asked her, why are you interested?" And it opened up the floodgates. And she just went on to tell me about how it's not about the money for her, that she's looking for something more in her life. And she sees me having fun with these women and inspiring each other. And she feels like she needs more of that. And then I just started connecting with her around that. And I said, yes. I said, you were speaking her language. And when we looked at her conversation, I said, okay, so let's take what you know now about her. And I said, do you see the first thing you started talking about? You went right to the money. You started talking about how you were struggling financially when you first started and how the business has changed your life financially. I said, you lost her from the very beginning because you weren't talking her language. She told you it's not about the money. And so I said, there's another lesson to you. You can't understand the value of what you have to offer someone until you take the time to find out what they're actually looking for. And so that was another specific light bulb moment. She said, oh, I get that now. Okay. And here's what you'll start to hear. This is how you know that your coaching is effective. You'll hear people say things like, I've heard you say that so many times before, but now it makes sense. And you want to know why it makes sense? Because we're using her specific actions as a way for her to learn and grow. That's skill development. That's the application. That's the execution. The other thing coaching does is it provides accountability to make sure that they do it. Like if you've got a standard call with someone on your team, here's what you do. Every single time you get on the phone with the Zoom or whatever, first thing you do is you look at a piece of content and a conversation. And if I was coaching somebody and they were getting my personal time, they are not allowed to get my time unless we have a piece of content and a conversation to look at every single week. It's the first thing that we do. That builds in the accountability that they have to do it. Now, here's the power of this. When you have coaching as a part of the processes of your system and your leadership system of how you work with people, it will increase the quality of the actions. Think of it like this. Let's say that we have a standing weekly call, or maybe you're somebody that is instituting a tool that we teach for small groups, doing this with small groups. We call it a weekly accountability meeting or a WAM. If you're in a WAM meeting, every week you need to have a piece of content and a conversation to share. But here's what will happen. Not only will they do it, they'll be more likely to do it because they don't want to be embarrassed and get on and say, I didn't talk to a single person. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you don't get my time if you're not even talking to one person. Like, I don't commit to your business unless you commit to your business. So they'll do it, but here's what will happen. They'll be more intentional about the way that they do it because they'll be having the conversation and they'll be thinking like, so-and-so is going to see this. So I better, she taught me to ask the question. So I better ask the question because I know that and they'll do it better. And here's the thing, who cares if that's the only reason why they do it better? As long as they do it better, they're going to see better results. And so they'll be more intentional about the way they do things. And so that's what I want you to realize. You need both. Some of you need to teach way less to your team. There's different types of training that we do. There's basic training, which is accessible to the whole team. Basic team training should be repeating the core concepts of business. Every single business, I could take any one of your businesses. There are no more than probably 4 or 5 core skills that somebody needs to master to be successful. And so your basic training is really just a repetition of those handful of core skills. Now, you may present it to them and teach it to them in different ways, but it's all still the same thing. You don't get the advanced training until you master the basics and show me that you can at least do something. And if you're teaching too much in a basic training format, you're not serving your team because you're directing their focus, like you're going to teach them TikTok. And they literally don't even know how to create content. They don't know how to talk to people. And you're teaching them how to do reels or whatever you do on TikTok. Why are you wasting your time doing that? Teach them how to talk to another human being before you teach them all the other nonsense. Until they master that, until they learn, stop selling in your content. Like, just bring more value. Like, teaching them another social media platform, it's a waste of time. So master the basic foundational skills. And then you're going to have these smaller groups that have ascended. They've hit a rank. They've done some work. They've gone beyond the basics. Those are the groups in the communities where you give them the more advanced level training, but you're spoon feeding it to people. And as you ascend in your rank and your level, you get access to higher level concepts. This is so critically important. It has taken me 7 years to realize this. 7 years of doing online coaching and training and programs and memberships and courses, watching tens of thousands of people buy from us. And the vast majority of them do nothing with the information. You know why they do nothing? Because they get overwhelmed. And so like when I look at our Love, Serve, Grow program now, right? We really, like 90% of the time is just spent on content and conversations. Content and conversations. The entire program is designed around those two things to keep you focused on it, to keep you doing it so you can learn and grow. Because what I know is this: if you can help people just get a little better in those two areas, almost every single problem they have in business is gone. That's simple. So incorporate this into your business. If you're doing team trainings, every single time you have a team training, you look at a piece of content and you look at a conversation. You know, typically coaching is done one-to-one, but there's a limitation to that because you can only work with so many people. So here's how you scale coaching. You have coaching conversations for groups to hear. You see, we do this a lot in our programs. We do this on our social media. You have a specific person share a specific situation, looking at a conversation, and you coach them on the Zoom for everybody else to listen to and everybody else to hear. That's how you scale coaching. But you've got to make this a bigger part of your business. You have to lean into it. You have to embrace it, because for many of you, this is what's been missing. So that's my conversation for you today. Think about, how can you implement these things? Simple strategies, right? Next time somebody comes to you struggling, let me see your conversations. People you're working with, let me see your conversations. Let's look at your content together. This is how you learn. This is how they learn. This is how they grow and become better. So that's the episode for today. Thanks for being here. As always, I love and appreciate all of you for being a part of this community.